The doctors had already warned me that I might not survive the night, but the words that broke my heart were not spoken by a doctor. They came from my own mother. I was lying beneath the harsh white hospital lights, barely able to breathe, when the nurse held the phone near my ear so I could hear my mother's voice. She knew I was dying. She knew the doctors were fighting to keep me alive. Yet when they asked her to come, her answer was simple: my sister needed her more right now. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in my life, I stopped waiting for my mother to choose me. If you believe that kindness, love, and second chances can change someone's life, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to the channel. Sometimes a simple story can remind us that family is not always defined by blood, but by the people who stay when everyone else walks away. My name is Emily, and for most of my childhood, I believed my family was ordinary. We lived in a small neighborhood where everyone knew everyone. My father worked long hours repairing machines at a local factory, my mother stayed home, and my younger sister Lily was the center of almost every family celebration. Lily had always been the fragile one. She suffered from asthma as a child, and because of that, my parents treated her as if the entire world had to stop whenever she needed something. I never blamed her for it. She was my little sister, and I loved her. What hurt was that somewhere along the way, my parents stopped noticing that I needed them too. When I was 10, I won a school science competition. I waited all evening for my parents to come home so I could show them my certificate. They never did. Lily had a school performance that night, and they had gone to watch her. When I was 16, I received a scholarship to a prestigious summer program. Again, nobody came to the ceremony. My mother told me Lily was having a difficult week and needed her. I smiled and told them it was fine. I became very good at saying those 3 words. As I grew older, I stopped asking for attention. I learned to celebrate my victories quietly and cry where nobody could see me. Eventually, I moved away for college and built a life of my own. I became a nurse because, ironically, caring for people had always been the one thing that made me feel needed. I thought perhaps distance would change my relationship with my family. It didn't. Whenever I called, my mother talked about Lily. Whenever I visited, the conversation somehow returned to Lily. I remained the daughter who was expected to understand everything. Then, one rainy evening, everything changed. I was driving home from the hospital after a 12-hour shift when another vehicle lost control on the wet road. I remember the headlights rushing toward me. I remember the sound of metal crushing. Then everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital bed. There were tubes everywhere. My ribs were fractured, my lungs were badly injured, and I had lost a dangerous amount of blood. The doctor explained that I had survived the first surgery, but my condition remained critical. I could barely speak. Every breath felt like fire. The nurse asked if there was someone she should call. I whispered my mother's number. She called. I listened as the nurse explained what had happened. My mother became silent. Then she asked whether I was going to die. The nurse hesitated before saying that the doctors were doing everything possible, but the next 24 hours were extremely important. I thought that would be enough. I thought hearing that her daughter might not live through the night would make my mother drop everything and come running. Instead, she said Lily was going through something difficult and she couldn't leave her alone. Those words stayed inside my head long after the call ended. The nurse tried to comfort me, but I turned my face toward the window. Outside, rain covered the glass, turning the city lights into blurry stars. I thought about every birthday when I waited for my mother to come. Every school event. Every phone call I had made just because I wanted to hear her voice. I realized I had spent my entire life hoping that one day she would finally look at me and say, "You matter too." That night, something inside me broke. But something else began to grow. The hospital staff became my unexpected family. A nurse named Sarah sat beside me during the darkest hours. She held my hand when I was afraid. A surgeon checked on me repeatedly even after his shift ended. My old college friend Daniel drove through the night when he heard about the accident. He arrived exhausted, carrying a small bag of clothes and the photograph of my dog that I kept on my bedroom shelf. For the first time, I understood that family wasn't always the person whose name appeared on your birth certificate. Days passed. My condition slowly improved. I survived the night. Then another. Eventually, I was able to sit up. A week later, I could take a few painful steps with assistance. And then, one afternoon, my mother finally came. She entered the hospital room carrying flowers. Behind her was Lily. My mother looked shocked when she saw me standing beside the bed. I didn't say anything. She looked around the room and noticed photographs that Sarah and Daniel had brought. There were cards from hospital staff. There was a small handmade sign from a group of nurses wishing me strength. My mother realized that while she had been absent, other people had been there. She began crying. She tried to explain that Lily had been struggling, that she had believed I was strong enough to survive, that she thought I understood. But I finally said the words I had been afraid to say my entire life: being strong doesn't mean I don't need love. My mother covered her face. For several moments, the room was completely silent. Then Lily stepped forward. She was crying too. She told me something I never expected to hear. She said she had spent years believing that I didn't mind being overlooked because I always smiled. She said she had watched our parents choose her again and again, but she never understood how much it was hurting me. Then she apologized. I looked at my sister and realized she wasn't the enemy. Neither was I. The real enemy had been years of silence. I eventually forgave my mother, but forgiveness did not mean pretending nothing had happened. I told her that if she wanted to be part of my life, things had to change. I would no longer accept being treated as an afterthought. I wouldn't beg for attention. I wouldn't compete with my sister. And I wouldn't carry the pain alone anymore. My mother agreed. Recovery was slow. Some wounds healed quickly. Others took much longer. Months later, I returned to work at the hospital. One evening, I saw a young woman sitting alone beside her mother's hospital bed. She looked terrified. I walked over and held her hand. She asked me if everything would be okay. I smiled and told her that sometimes life breaks us in ways we never expect, but broken things can still become beautiful. That night, I went home and found an envelope waiting outside my door. It was from my mother. Inside was a single handwritten note. It said, "I spent years believing you didn't need me because you never complained. I was wrong. You were just trying not to hurt me. I'm sorry I learned your value only when I almost lost you." I cried when I read it. Not because the pain had disappeared, but because, for the first time, my mother had finally seen me. And sometimes, that's all a wounded heart has ever wanted. If this story touched your heart, please support this video with a like, share it with someone you love, and subscribe to the channel. Your small gesture may help this story reach someone who needs its message today. And before you go, I have one special request. Comment, "I will never take love for granted," if this story made you think about someone in your own life. Because sometimes we don't realize how precious someone is until we're standing beside an empty hospital bed, holding a note that came far too late. And sometimes the greatest second chance isn't getting another life, it's finally learning how to love the people who are still here.